You are on mute, but no worries, no worries. I must say that's really pulsating that music, isn't it? It like gets you on the like go. Though
I know.
I miss our other music also, the other intro theme for Lifa, but this really pumps it up. So tell me, how are you, Muller?
You have missed hosting with me, haven't you, Ashok? Say it, say
And
it, say it publicly.
okay, so I value my mortality, right, and longevity.
So,
Yes.
Ashok, good evening. And it's so good to co host finally again. It's been a while. I was afraid that, I would forget what I'm supposed to do. But, I'm so excited. I actually forgot my line. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in Leadership Inflow Asia. And today is a very, very special day because it is exactly 1 week before our Leadership Festival, right? Which is
Yes.
happening next Thursday. And I know some of you who are in Malaysia, you might be familiar with me, you may have seen me, we may have shook hands. So if you are waiting to see Ashok, I heard he's flying down to Malaysia for our leadership festival next Thursday, right? So Ashok, are you excited in joining us next Thursday?
You know what? I am. Because this Leadership in Flow Asia show that we've been doing on a weekly basis, where we've been interviewing leaders and learning from leaders on a weekly basis. Now we are bringing that experience to a live audience with a half day learning also. Again, it's the same. I would say the energy that we are bringing in. We are sharing ideas. We are learning from leaders, learning from each other, and just love it. I'm really excited about it, and I think you've got a great lineup. I think you got. Let me see if you got your panel speakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got your opening keynote, right? By Anita Rai,
Christina,
right?
right? Yes.
Yes. And she'll be talking about future leaders and about education and all. And then, of course, you're doing a very highly engaging session also, right?
I hope so.
Uh, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. I mean, from your 20 odd years of experience, I know what's going to be like. Again, what I'm seeing is it's a learning festival because it's about leaders. It's about telling leaders what the future is going to be about and how to prepare yourself for it. And we are having a whole networking, and I'm just looking forward to the whole learning experience. You know?
Nice. And what is even more exciting is that our guest today, Logen Kanisan, will also be part of the festival. So for
Oh,
those,
excellent.
yeah, for those who've signed up for our 10th of August Leadership in Flow Asia's first Leadership Learning Festival on the 10th of August at UNITA from 8:30 to 1:30. If you like Logan today, and I'm going to introduce him shortly, he will be there to meet. And some of our past guest speakers would also be there. So I'm
Yep.
actually putting them up. So if you have not signed up, you know what to do after the show. But without further ado, we've been talking about Logan Kanisan. Let's bring him up. Before I bring him up, I want to just quickly introduce Logan. I met
Sure.
Logan, gosh, many, many years ago, right? When he was in his previous organization, of course, when I was doing a training program for them. Now he came across. Have you met some people who are young? We always say a young person with an old soul. That's
Mm.
how Logan came across, right? Very nerdy, very serious, sitting down quietly and asking me serious questions. And by now, Ashok, seriousness scares me, right? Because I'm like, that's this young punk who's going to ask me questions that I don't understand. And through enough, he ended up making my life really challenging by asking me really practical, brilliant questions. And from then, I dare say we have a friendship. And every time I
Nice.
bump into him when I get, when I'm doing work with an organization, I've seen him grow in a way that I admire him, and I actually really look forward to having conversation because I learn so much, right?
Nice.
In the way he leads, in the way he thinks, in the way he makes his choices. So it's a privilege, being quiet, introverted. Logan has agreed to be with us. And our topic today is really interesting, right, Ashok? You want to introduce the topic before
Yep,
I
yep.
bring, or maybe I'll bring Logan and then we'll
Yeah,
introduce.
let's bring him on. Let's bring him on.
Okay,
Right.
let's bring
Yeah.
him on.
Hello,
Hi, Logan.
how are
Hi,
you?
Logan. How are you, sir?
Good to see you all. How are you doing?
Pretty good, I must say. Pretty good. Thank
Good,
you
good.
for saying yes to our show. And for all our guests, whoever have logged in, right? Leadership in Flow Asia is where on a weekly basis, every Thursdays at 6 p.m., right? Singapore, Malaysia time, we interview quiet leaders, right? And we dig into their insights about their personal growth, their leadership growth, and how they have impacted organization. And this month, the month of August, we're talking about purposeful leadership with a very interesting subtopic called profitability, goal or control. And of course, we came up with this only because of what Logan shared with us on our pre-show. He made us start thinking about this issue. They say, okay, you know what? Let's bring this topic up and let's discuss about it. And before we go on, yes, I want to say hi to Gerald and Fernandez and Luis Moraes, who says hello, Ashok and Logan and
Hello.
Muller too. Yeah, hi.
Okay,
Okay, all
I,
right, let's
I have to,
go.
I have to, I have to say this, Ashok. I'm going to say a special hi to Luis Moraes because he's gone missing from Malaysia for a while.
Oh,
Welcome
okay.
back to our country, Luis, and good to have you on the show. Thank you for making time. So let's get to Logan. Ashok, if you realize Logan and I are matched, so we're together.
Righto.
Okay. I think I'm just so
I didn't get
excited.
the memo. I did not get the memo.
Well, this is called telepathy. When we're in the same space, same zone, hopefully same level of intelligence, we wear the same color.
Oh,
I'm
All
riding
right.
on Logan's
Got it.
intelligence. Logan, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
You're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
I know. Logan had some things to catch up with, so he made it on time, and he's trying to catch his breath. So let's really very quickly, understand a little bit about you, right? Because
Yes.
I think your background has been really very interesting. Yeah, we know that say you love maths, and I don't like people who like maths because I'm not very good,
Oh,
right?
Mm.
And in our pre-interview, I like the way you said, math is my guiding principle, and I love maths, right? And when we were deciding on the topic was very interesting because when we talk about businesses, we talk about profitability. The success and the sustenance of a business is really on whether one you're profitable, because that's when we can grow, right? And for profitability to happen, you need effective leadership, whatever that means, right? And you brought in a very interesting, I would say, example, which is why you asked us a very interesting question. It all depends on, when we talk about purposeful leadership, you said it all depends whether profitability is a goal or a control. So if you're in business or if you're employed and you've always been pushed for your KPI because profitability is the end result that we're looking at, we're going to talk to Logan and figure out what is the difference between profitability, which is based on goal or control. But before that, I think Ashok is dying to get a bit of background out of you. Ashok, I pass it to you first.
Thank you, Muller. Okay, Logan. Finally, I have my time with you. All right. So now, Muller said something very interesting. She said you talked about math, right, being your guiding principle. Now, I'm very curious about that. I'm sure all our listeners are curious about that. Share with us a story to illustrate what you mean by math has been your guiding principle.
I'll actually share. Thanks for that. I'll actually, that question makes me think, and I will actually share two stories instead of one. And then don't worry, I'll keep it short within
No
5 minutes.
reason. Just like a math genius, right? 1 + 1 = 2. Let's go.
So the first one is a personal aspect of it, and the second one is philosophical.
Okay.
So for me, maths is personal because that's the baton I've inherited from my father. So my dad is a self-made man who went from rags to riches. He dropped out of school at 14 and self-studied his way to a maths degree from the University of London. He was one of 3 people who graduated from his unit class at that time in pure maths, majoring in pure maths. That's crazy for me because pure maths scares even me. Even though I love maths, I get a bit scared of pure maths. For me, that symbolizes my dad's success beyond, despite the odds, and his determination, his fire that got him from that 14-year-old boy who was sweeping the corridors of an office as an office boy, right up to graduating, becoming an officer, being a senior person in his career. So maths to me symbolizes my father's fire, determination, ambition, and that is the baton I've inherited. So that's the personal aspect. On a philosophical aspect, maths is not just logic and numbers. The more you dig into maths, the more you go like, oh wow, okay. Because maths is a process of discovery, and we are discovering the universe, the laws of the universe. And if you think about it, the modern civilization, if you talk about engineers, doctors, whatever it is, everything has a foundation of maths, whether you like it or not. And it is basically our discovery of universe's natural laws that allowed us to build our civilization. So to me, maths tells us to live in harmony with nature, to discover about nature, to keep our minds open to what it communicates to us. And it does, believe it or not, it does communicate to us through maths. So we do need to be open to that as well. Yes.
I'm curious. No, this because when you said math communicate, of course, obviously, I remember the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, right, where he saw
Yes.
numbers and then he discovered, But
Yes.
what has been your personal experience in terms of numbers speaking to you?
Well, numbers. I mean, it's just each of us have a unique way we connect with the universe, a unique ability within ourselves that makes us proud of ourselves, believe in ourselves. So that has been maths for me because I connect to maths very easily, as since I was a child. I would my self confidence grew because I did well in maths. I made a career out of maths through actuarial science, and I qualified as an actuary. And a good 50 to 60% of our actuarial education is a solid foundation in maths. And I teach as well. I teach actuarial science, the mathematical ones, and I find my purpose through maths. I mean, of course, if I'm not an accountant. I mean, no offense to any accountants out there, but too much numbers, just looking at numbers and trying to make numbers add up and match gives me a headache. So I prefer the connection between the numbers, connecting the dots, and that's how math speaks to me, connecting the dots between different things that happen. Yeah, it's really quite nice actually.
Now I can see the picture because when you say connecting the dots, and as an actuary, right, you are looking a lot of demographic numbers too, isn't it?
Yes, that's true.
Right,
Yes.
from whether it's mortality, morbidity, you're connecting the dots in various ways, where you're
Yes.
seeing the social impacts of things also,
Yes, that's right. Yes.
right? And the story and the numbers speak stories to you.
Definitely. Yes. Definitely.
I can see that now. What was your, I mean, you studied math, but you could have gone into different type of life sciences or whatsoever. What was your pull factor for actual science?
I have a
What was
very
the
boring
driving?
answer to that, or very inspiring answer, depending how you see it. So my dad wanted to be an actuary after doing his maths degree, but he was too busy with family and career.
Hmm.
So he got my elder brother to become an actuary. So he's an actuary in the States. And then I
Okay.
told dad, I'm like, Pa, I really enjoy looking at the space. I want to go into astronomy. He was like, nonsense. You won't earn enough money from that. It's like, do actuarial science. I'm like, okay, all right. But no regrets. I mean, of course, I love my astronomy, and I mean, like, I read all the kiddie books on astronomy, and I kind of wish I went into that as well. But my dad is a very practical man, and he laid a solid foundation for me for sure. Yes.
Okay, no worries, no worries. You know what? I want to land on second thing that Malar spoke about before I hand over it to her. So my question to you is about profitability, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, you said the way you look at profitability. I mean, when we look at the P&L statements and what have we got, right?
Yep, yep.
Uh, there is a distinction. A lot of us look at that as a goal to meet,
Yes, yes.
but you mentioned you see it as a form of control.
Yep.
Can you help us, me and all the listeners, right? Help us understand the distinction that you have when you look at profits from a goal and a form of control.
I'll give you an analogy instead.
Sure.
Now okay, so for now we move from the corporate to the individual. When you think of the individual, think of our health, our personal well-being, our mental well-being, our financial well-being. Then if you think of it as a goal, it is rather odd because it's a foundation rather. Our well-being, financially, health-wise, and all of that is a foundation upon which we search for our purpose. We do, we strive for what we want to do. However, if you looked at your well-being as a goal instead, then it is something to be achieved. So that's rather odd. So for us, I would think it's rather something to be practiced rather than some. Of course, we can have a weight loss goal, all those things. That's fine, but ultimately, it's a lifestyle that has to be practiced. So that's for the individual. From a company's perspective, how would we say a company is healthy? Of course, there are many different metrics in that, how a company is healthy. I mean, the chemistry within the team, the organization, how people work together, their happiness index, whatever you may call it. But ultimately, the company needs to be able to pay salaries, needs to be able to pay creditors, be not take too much debt, and ultimately be pay enough returns to the shareholders. So it's actually the company's well-being. So the company's well-being is a foundation, is a control, upon which then we strive for meaning and purpose. So the goals have to be aspirational, and profitability cannot be a goal in that sense. It has to be a practice. You need to make sure you are not in the red, right? And you need to have practices to make sure that you are sustaining your corporation, because most of us don't set up businesses for just for 1 year or a 3 year horizon. We set it up in the hopes that we can run it for year after year, and then we hand it out to somebody. And so the corporation's well-being is important. So what I mean by profitability as a control is a practice. It's a lifestyle practice for the corporation rather than an aspirational practice.
I get that. I get that. I, I don't know. I mean, I may need your help here because what's happening is if you look at all the quarterly reportings, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes.
What are the quarterly reportings all about? It's all numbers, isn't it?
Correct, yes.
Right. I so what is wrong here then? What is wrong with the
So
numbers? I mean, the numbers are important
one
anyway.
so one thing I hold very close to my heart is that society and our ways of practice needs to conform to the truth, and the truth and what we believe in should not conform to what we see being practiced. So when we have that approach, our compass should be what is true and what is right, and what makes sense. Society and corporations veer off because of various reasons, and we need to have a compass to bring it back. So now, yes, that is how corporations are run. But there are, it is a challenge because when you run corporations solely based on numbers, then it's talk about what's your revenue, what's your profits, and all of that. But within the numbers, you can also see other stories like, okay, how many customers are we serving? Are we okay in an insurance company? We can see how much is the average sum assured? Are we giving them adequate protection? Which segments of customers have we reached? Where have we reached? What is the insurance penetration like, which is an aspirational goal, which companies have taken up as well. So that's in the insurance space. And in every space, there is customer value that can be also measured. So that should also, actually, that must be the headline. and the profitability and all of those metrics should be like, okay, we are doing fine, or we are meeting our targets, so we are healthy. In that sense, because I'm idealistic, but to me, corporations, organizations are there to serve the people and to serve the customers. That's the meaning of, that's
Oh,
the
fair
whole
enough,
of
fair enough.
business.
Okay, so I don't think you're idealistic in that sense. It's not a bad word or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think whenever we all started business in one form or the other, we were idealists,
Yeah.
right? Now, some of us, we all started with wanting to serve a greater purpose or serve an unmet need,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Maybe sometime along the way we got veered off, right? But let's go back to what you just mentioned earlier. You said we should actually be putting up the impact to the customers first.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing first,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
That should be the first story we talk about.
Yeah.
And thereafter, what supports that story is the numbers,
Yes, that's right.
the,
Yes.
the profits, revenues, and all of the other matrices and all that. But what I'm hearing is that is the most important to look at the impact to the customer itself, right?
And you can also say that it is, I mean, if I'm an investor and
Mhm.
your one business is serving many customers, the profitability is, so is about there. It's fine. It's
Mhm.
not like skyrocketing, but it's serving a lot of customers, meeting their needs. Another company is like, making tons of profits, but it's like really not, it's a bit backwards, not really hearing the customers. I mean, I would want to invest in an organization that survives for a longer period of time, and intuitively, the organization that really serves the customers, that is reaching out and yet is healthy. I mean, it can't be doing too much of that and not be unhealthy either. And you're
Sure.
healthy, so that you would be attractive to investors as well. Yes.
Sure. And from your, I mean, from your point of view, what would be the good matrices to measure the impact to customer value?
Okay, so this would go. So this would differ based on the industry, right?
Sure.
So in terms of, okay, so if it's a customer-facing industry, like in the insurance industry, they have this NPS scores. What is the customer's satisfaction? That usually comes from after a claim, after some kind of service. So that is one indicator, and many organizations are using that now.
Mhm.
It could be insurance penetration, like, okay, as an insurance industry, Malaysia's insurance penetration is rather low. So how that compares and what we are doing as perhaps one insurance company can say, we have moved the needle up from X to Y by doing this. So there, in every industry, you will have something you want to achieve, and that can be quantified in some way or another.
Okay, got it, got it. Now, thanks for sharing with that. Again, thank you for giving us a distinction about when you look at profitability, just as a one form of control that you can focus on is the impact to the customers, and then look at how the numbers, the revenues are top line numbers that you're bringing in, or the bottom line at the end of the day, how that supports that value or the impact to the customers. Right, Muller. Before I carry on, I get excited, but I better let you talk.
Yeah, when two intelligent men are talking, I need simpler terms because I told you I don't like maths, right? Logan, let's so help me. You know me, just
Understand.
so you help me a little bit, right? What I'm hearing, and I just want to make sure I get it right. Most businesses, when we look at whether they are in the red or black, we tend to look at how profitable that business is. And that profitability, in a very simple term, is really you minus cost and what's your net profit. Our gross net profit, how much
Yep.
money
Yep.
you've made.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the sense of profitability, right? Now, very often when businesses are setting their goals, right, they could have different types of goals.
Yes. Yes.
But
Agree.
the success, the measure of success of how these goals are met or the KPIs are met is is usually measured with profitability.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So I've got that right so far,
Yes,
right?
that's true. It is true.
Now, so if businesses, so and very often when you're reading articles about successful businesses, we don't often hear businesses raving our NPS scores are high, our customer loyalty is high, right?
Yes, yes,
I'm not
yes.
sure whether that brings investors in. That sounds ideal, right? So when we work with clients on culture change, we know any form, whether we're focused on quality, whether we're focused on service, right? Or sales, whatever our focus is in terms of the work culture or the branding that the organization wants to focus on. At the end of the day, is the survival and the sustenance and the thriving of the business, which then
Yes,
shows
yes,
in profits.
yes,
So
yes.
I've got that right?
Yes, that's true.
So while you're telling me, oh yeah, when we are focused on profit as a control measure, it sounds theoretical,
I understand. Understand.
right? So I suppose so. I wanted to make sure I've understood. So my question is really this, right? Can you give us some examples of real life businesses where
Yes.
the focus on profit is control, or rather, if you focus on the right thing to sustain the business, profitability is the end result.
Yes,
So
that's true. So,
if I focus on why I started the business and I measure those things, customer satisfaction, quality products and da. If I focus on that, what you're saying is that I use these control measures and I'll get the profit. That's what you're saying, right? Can you give us
yes,
some examples so that we can sort of crunch it? Because what we hear every day is the opposite story.
I understand. Okay, so I'm going to, uh, well, I like to start with theory and then I'll give a little story or examples to illustrate it and then I'll make my
Sure.
point. So the theoretical part, okay, so the thing about profit being a measurement of outcome, the problem with that is it is a lagging indicator. We are profitable now because of things we have done in the past. And and it's also a short-term indicator. Now we are profitable. It doesn't tell us what will happen next year or even next month. Now we are profitable now.
Nice.
It doesn't tell us the why. And if I were investing in a company without knowing the why, it is going to be very hard for me to invest. And I'm sure many investors think that way. So the why is important, and the why is not so much the profits. The why is the company is doing something right in their industry. And that something right is usually about solving a problem better than others, solving a problem someone hasn't seen, and all of that. Now, I don't have very good examples, I have to say, because the current many of the disruptors in the world right now, at least the large disruptors, focus on a growth target where they solve a problem really well, they disrupt an industry, and they try to become profitable 3 to 5 years down the road. Then they make profitability a goal. It is and it's I don't see it as a very sustainable approach, because then they say, oh, profitability is a goal. We start doing retrenchments, this and that. So the tech industry is guilty of this, where they've been very good at solving problems, but not all of them. So, for example, I would take the phone industry as an example. Nokia, Motorola, these were very profitable companies. They were doing very, very well. But the profit numbers would not have told them that a competitor is coming up, that their customers are looking for something fresh and they need a new solution, the touch screen and all of that. So they were completely in the dark about this because they were profitable. And then as soon as this disruptor came up, it was the iPhone in 2007, I think, the very first generation. It came up, the touch phone, you have everything within a phone. Then when the profit numbers started going down, it was too late to do anything for them, right? Because profitability, it's only impacted when the customers start shifting away from Nokia, from Motorola into iPhone, into Apple. So at that point, it is pretty much too late. I mean, even when they start doing catch up, like the new competitors come, they've invested into it, and they've done their research and they have wowed the customers. That was one moment. Another one is the taxi industry. The taxi industry is not didn't die so long ago. Actually, I still remember when I was in college, I used to, I used to depend on the taxi or the bus, and you never know when the taxi would come. You never know how much they'll charge. They were profitable. I mean, the companies giving out licenses for taxis were profitable, but they never measured, or I would dare say they didn't bother about us customers, right? Like they had us on hostage as well. And the Uber, first it was Uber, then it was Grab. They just took the industry by storm because there was a problem that was unsolved. Sure, they were profitable. I mean, that's why people they took out these taxi licenses and all that. But so when the profits went down, it's too late. People were stuck in the taxi industry. They have to start following the new trend. So it's just the bottom line is, if the customers' needs aren't met or there are gaps in the customers, end of the day, profits, we have to look at the source of profits. It comes from customers. And if your customers aren't happy, they may be with you for a while and you may be profitable. The profit index doesn't tell you whether your customers are happy or not. It's a lagging indicator. Maybe they were happy in the past, they had no choice, or for whatever reason they were coming to us. But if we don't measure the customers, if we don't check whether we are really solving issues, whether customers are happy, as soon as another opportunity comes, another problem solver comes, that profit will disappear.
Okay, now, so what I'm hearing again is idealism, right? Because on one hand, I think it's pretty clear, your old soul thoughts are coming through. I mean, the old soul thoughts.
Yes.
Right? Now, old soul thoughts, we start a business and we are purposeful. We want to serve the customer. We want to make sure we make good profit.
Yes.
And how do we make good, clean profit? We make good, clean profit by serving and delivering on our promises.
Yes.
Right? But that almost seems like the thing of the past, because while you're telling me what we initially started off with, which is the purpose of the business, right? A lot of businesses started that way from a founder's dream, from a founder's vision, and they've become really big. Even in Malaysia, we have a lot of big companies that has gone global from a founder's dream, right? And they followed what you would say as profitability as a control measure. So how they ran the business was very important to meet the why.
Yes.
Right? And so all their action followed how we want to actually show up as a brand.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now, and then, and of course, sometimes we get very comfortable. Perhaps we don't listen. There are issues that remain unresolved, like your taxi Uber example, right? We didn't listen. We've been complaining for a long time, right? Not too sure about Nokia, whether there were complaints. I don't know, right? But taxi, we heard complaints. But with the others, people were proactive about setting expectation of how service could get better, life could get better. They created a dream or a vision as how life could be even before there was a problem. I think that was the era of technology or smartphones, right? We didn't quite have a problem in all areas, right? So there's a disruptor. And if you think about disruption and what you were saying about examples like Uber, right? Technology, they come, they disrupt, they deliver very high profit very quickly. And then what happens? So I suppose my question for you is that on one hand, we are saying we are looking at long-term sustainability, but we are celebrating disruptors.
Yes, that's
We
right.
are celebrating disruptors. We are accepting disruptors. We are even promoting disruptors, which means that we might be moving towards, hey, whatever works for us in the short run, let's go with it, because then we can go with another short-term business. So how does focusing on profitability as a control measure, you think is going to help us to sustain the business when disruptors are disrupting our business? That was a long question because it was
No
really big.
problem, no problem. So there
Okay,
are
good.
two aspects to this. I always have two answers. I'm not sure why. So one is from the perspective of the disruptor, and one is from the perspective of the disrupted. Now, let's talk about the perspective of the disrupted first. Okay, if I were sitting in Nokia, wondering what's going on with my sales, or if I were sitting, in a taxi industry, leasing out these licenses, I'm like, hey, what's going on? All of a sudden, my business is going down. Then what would hit me at that point? Oh, my cash cow has run out. So the thought of a disrupted person is like, now it's too late to do anything, and you probably want to pivot or do something, and you want to be a follower after that. So the disrupted person clearly was reaping a good amount of profit. So it was a profitable company that was disrupted by a disruptor. So then their profit stream was broken. And this trend, I dare say, is being repeated in many, many industries, large or small players, niche players, monopolies. None of them are really that safe, because any place where we are complacent, a disruptor can come. So for those of us who are running businesses already, I'm not saying that drop your profit targets. I'm saying profitability is a lifestyle. It's a health. It's the health of your company. You need to keep at it, but remember your aspirational goals, like why you are here. Now, that is this perspective of the disrupted. Now, from the perspective of the disruptor, I also said that I'm not very proud of many of the examples I bring up, because they focus on disruption without focusing on profit as a control to begin with. And of course, some of them become unicorns or decacorns, whatever you may call it. So I guess they don't really need to worry about. They defy the law of physics in financial physics, some of them. But for most of us, common business people who start businesses, we seek to solve a new problem, or a problem that, something that has been unmet, so in a different way. And we go all out at it. So we are technically a disruptor in however small scale we are, changing, providing new solutions. Now, the reminder to the disruptor is remember profitability as a control. It is not a goal that you will set for yourself 3 years down the road after you have achieved your customer base. Because the kind of decisions you need to take when profitability is a goal after reaching, serving your customers, will be very difficult for a founder, because if we don't set it out right from the start, of course we may scale faster by getting investments, throwing money, growing our business very quickly. Then we will have difficult decisions. So for a founder, they may have to depart from their original vision. They may not be able to serve the customer as honestly or whatever they wanted at the beginning, because they now have to make more profits out of the same customer. That's number one. Number two is they may have to let go of staff. Unfortunately, when we grow too quickly, we hire too many people. That becomes the biggest cost base, and we have to let go of people, and that's got to be painful for people who run businesses. So to avoid those painful situations later, and then to avoid the situations questioning your existence, a disruptor needs to remember profitability as a control. So that's how I look at it. Of course, this is not the only way to think. There are many other ways to think and to run businesses. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you are basically what you are saying is that take the hard way in the business, not the hard. So the hard way is also hard, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are now bringing in what we call values. Because earlier you had introduced us profitability as a control, and what you're telling is the foundations, right? And the foundations of business in the past was the why, the purpose, the meaning, why I want to do this, how I want to make a difference, who do I want to serve, how I want the service to make your life better. What problems am I solving for the customer? And by the way, when I do all of this very well, you pay me and I get my profits. Right? So that was in the past. Or at least there was a common thing. And those, and from what you're telling me, when you do this, you are reflective, you're thinking through what are the consequences of every choice that you make, the number of people, you get into your business, and, how do you make sure you're able to sustain them in the system,
Yes,
right?
yes,
You're
that's
saying
right.
all of that, very aspirational. So they sound like values. So you are making leaders, uh, you are challenging leaders to make choices which is value based,
Yep,
right?
that's fair. Yes, yes, that's right. That's right.
And that's a hard call right now, because on one hand it's values, because that's what is forming your form of control, right? So tell us, what are some examples of values that would guide the choices to help us have profitability as a control?
Okay, so one is, why do I exist? Why am I here? And then number two is, how do I keep myself healthy? So those two questions are important to us as individuals, and important to a company. Like, why am I here? If the whole purpose of being here is to make money, then I guess you found your goal. That's a very easy goal. And if it's just to make money, then it might be a different type of business where you might not actually serve the customer directly, or might be trading, or where you're just to exploit arbitrage, and there's a there are certain segments of businesses where the goal is to make money, but then they have to be careful to be not become corrupted, and there's a lot of vices that can creep in when the goal is to just make money, right? So they have to be very careful with the value or purpose of just making money. Now, for the rest of us who who uh, who want, of course, we get into business to have independence, to make money, to do many other things. We then have to like sit and think like, but why really am I doing this business? There must be a reason. Yes, we all need to be employed, or we need to generate our own income in a certain way. And okay, I mean, for an employee, I mean, it's a pretty easy question to answer mostly. It's like where you prefer to work. But for a business owner, that it's a complex choice. Like, okay, yes, I'm entering this to have freedom of income, freedom from employment and all these things, blah blah. But why do I choose this business? And that why is your purpose, essentially, isn't it? And when we lose that why, I mean, it's okay. We can come back to it, because that's something central in us. And I mean, value-based leadership. I, 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 I hardly come across anyone who doesn't have value-based leadership. It's just that we get different priorities, and at different points in our life, different priorities are more important to us. But values underpin the way we do a lot of things. It could be just family values. It could be different types of values. But yeah.
Sorry, did I miss? So you said two things. Why am I here? So one is the personal why, as to what's my purpose, what's my meaning and purpose, and then you spoke about the business purpose. So how, why am I here as part of the business? So whether I'm a founder or a business owner, or an employee, I then ask, why am I in this particular job? Right? You
Yep.
did mention about healthy. Did I
Yes,
miss
yes. So,
that?
and then so profitability to me is financial well-being. I mean, from a personal perspective, we need to have our finances in order, right? So, to ensure that we can strive for whatever we want to strive for, our meaning. We want to serve, or we want to grow, personally, or any of that. So, health, from a financial perspective, is profitability for a company. Uh, unless they have very deep pockets, or they are very rich, they already have huge funds, they don't really need to worry about profits per se. But then it's just about having that they are not in the red. So profit, that it's just a financial measure. Every company can find out what is that financial measure that makes most sense for them from a health perspective. Yeah.
In your experience, right? Because as you say, the more you say, um, what's running in my head is that what we hear, and I could be totally wrong, and so happy to be wrong, is almost the opposite, right? Like when you say when you focus on control, we will actually get the profitability. But whenever we go into management retreats or senior management uh, goal setting, right? How often are conversations about let's get back to our why, how we make a difference, how to stay focused on our purpose, and how do we carry this purpose out so well so that we now get hold of the profitability that we're talking about. I mean, that's what I hear.
Yes.
Even when it comes to shareholders, when shareholders are investing,
Yes.
they are looking at your profit records. How many of shareholders are really looking at how you get the profit? Number one. Number two, the pressures that I hear from the management team is that shareholders are looking at how you can give me this amount of returns in the shortest period, because that language has totally shifted from what it was years ago when we used to hear. But today, whenever we go into leadership teams, what are they struggling with? How do I get the numbers? How do I work on the numbers so that I look effective in the shortest possible time? And if I'm going to do it in the shortest possible time, I'm not too sure. And you're right, I need to the focus of values will be different.
Yes.
I
Agree.
cannot be saying I want to grow my people. I cannot say I want to look after my people. I cannot say I want to develop my people. I cannot say I want to protect my people. I can't say all of that because those are beyond me at this moment, because my own survival is at stake. Because as a leader, even as a CEO, sometimes I'm only given 2 years. And in 2 years,
Yes.
if I
Yes.
don't
Yes.
change from, if I can't get my company out of the red, I'm seen as a failure. I'm seen as ineffective, right? But that's what we
Yes.
are here.
Yes.
So how
Yes.
often actually when you look out there, because I think you do risk management, you've worked in the insurance industry, you're still, looking at risk management. Tell me, in reality, when you look at organizations, one is this is your personal aspiration. When you look at reality out there, how how are we doing measuring profitability as a measure of control? And
So
I'll let
I
you
want, yeah,
answer that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. I want to unpack a few things there.
Mm.
So how are we doing? It's mixed, right? It's always going to be mixed. The world is a mixed place with various ideas and all that. So I didn't grow up in a cocoon and get my values, just within, I did learn these things from out there, and there are people that I'm emulating, leaders that I've read about, I've worked with over the years that inspired me. So these are things that are being practiced, not fair point, not by all, but there are a good number of people practicing it. The companies I've worked with, I've been very fortunate. Yes, there is also the profitability target, but I have been in so many leadership conversations where the focus is about the customer. Even the company I'm working in right now, my previous company, we talk about the customer. How are we meeting the customer's needs? How many customers we are reaching out to? And of course, the profits are talked about because, I mean, you see, a control measure needs to be talked about all the time. But then there's another point you talked about when a company is in the red. Okay, so that is crisis management. In crisis, so crisis management mode is totally different from a normal operational mode, and a company should not be in crisis management mode all the time. Right now, the reality is such also because of the market situation. COVID was recent. So profitability is something we've been talking about a lot for the last 3 years, maybe because companies have been in crisis, one crisis after another. Companies have been shut down. So we are in crisis. So in a crisis management mode, yes, the goal is survival. And of course, when we're drowning, we can't go out and say, hey, let's serve the customer. We do serve the customer, yes, but the goal, it's a short-term goal, right, to survive. But then we remind ourselves we need to get out of this situation, and then make sure you try not get into it. And there may be two reasons why, two or more reasons why that may have happened. One is profitability was not seen as a control before. So maybe certain companies were not careful to maintain profitability, or in insurance, we always talk about reserving for the future. So insurance companies, even when profits, well, actually, like life and health insurers grew even more during COVID. And even when they have downtimes, they have sufficient reserves and capital to make sure they never go in red, because that's ingrained in an insurance company's thinking. But this idea of setting up reserves in good times is something that all corporations need to seriously consider, so they don't go into crisis management mode. And in crisis management mode, it only works for a short while, and remember that you're giving up on something else. And a healthy competitor, let's say a very well-funded, healthy competitor comes in when we are in crisis management, they can do things that we can't, and they can take our customers away. So we need to be mindful of that as well.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm going to pass it to Ashok. Ashok is staring at me. I feel like you helped us come one full circle from understanding the sound foundations of the business, which is what we talk about, control measure or best practices in businesses, right? Which then leads us to profitability as a control measure, one. And, the reason sometimes we are then driven to drive ourselves with profit is because of the urgency, and the need for us to drive profit in terms of crisis or survival mode is because we did not practice our foundations, right? I think that's one thing that makes it clear for me. Number one. Number two, I also think that when you first started, you also clearly mentioned that today's profit is the result of what you did right yesterday, and you need to do what is right today, which is going to determine your tomorrow's profit. Yeah. And what you do today is the control that's going to actually measure the profits that you take tomorrow. So I think it's finally sinking in for me. Logen, thank you very much. I will pass it to Ashok now. Thank you, Ashok, for being patient.
No worries. I was enjoying this whole conversation. And no, thank you very much for that, Logen, because from what I'm hearing from you consistently, right? Consistently is go out there and solve problems for the customers. Keep looking out for what are the problems they have and keep solving their problems. Because when you are able to solve the customer's problems, they contribute to your profits.
Yes, that's right.
And what you're saying is, yes, profits is a lagging indicator for the actions of the past or what problems you solved in the past. But it need not be an indication for the future. And what I'm hearing from you, though you did not say this very clearly, but what I'm hearing from you is if you keep solving problems today, even for the future, that is another form of control. As opposed to just putting a profit as a number, as a goal, but focus on how do you keep solving problems for the customer.
That's right.
And I think as much as you say we're in a crisis survival mode, I agree. Since 2020, it has happened, right? And I think it has also given us an opportunity to learn from, right? And like what you rightfully put, well, after this incident, you better learn that you need to have your reserves, right? Because organizations with deeper reserves will be able to replicate what you're doing better, right? So these are some of the lessons, right? So in view of that, right, and wanting to solve problems and that being the control measure, how do you mitigate any form of risk? What are the risks that you see that people may have, and how do you then help them mitigate those risks, right, to be able to keep controlling and solving problems?
It's a very wide topic, risk, and risk management begins with risk awareness. So in all aspects of our lives, I mean, even myself included, we need to be aware of the risks facing us, and we need to measure and check how we're performing with all of those risks. So when we speak about in financial terms, we have personals and we have corporates. Of course, for corporates, a lot of indicators may come from their from their financial statements, from the operational matters and all of that. But being aware of all of those and having that one person who goes and thinks about all risks all the time, or as many risks as possible, is really good for us. That person may be annoying because they're constantly reminding us of problems that may come. But especially in an organization, that is important. And as a person, I would like to have a friend who comes and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Are you protected for this and that? Have you, set up your emergency buffer fund, this and that? So reminding, ourselves of the risks that faces, the awareness is the very first step. And then following that, we measure it if we can. Some things are measurable, some aren't. And then we need to, okay, in risk management theory, we talk about a few things we can do with a risk, right? One is you can avoid it completely. Like, for example, if me jumping off the roof is a bad risk, I can avoid by not jumping off the roof, right? Or not, if driving with my lights off at night is dangerous, I just avoid the risk by not doing it. I mean, these are simple examples, a bit silly, but there's one aspect is just not doing something that just brings you risk. But then again, risk brings rewards, so we need to take calculated risks. Then what else can we do with risks? We can retain them. We can decide, I'm okay with this risk. I've thought about it and I'm okay with it. I can survive it. Because I can actually profit a lot more from this. I can get many opportunities. That's fine. You can retain. Some you may want to reduce by taking precautionary measures. For us as people, it can be lifestyle, can be taking insurance. It can be practicing saving habits to make sure we can weather storms that may come. For corporations, it could be taking business insurance, interruption insurance, or various things of that sort. So that is risk reduction. You can have risk mitigation where you mitigate certain risks, where you pass on. So insurance is actually about risk mitigation and risk reduction also. So that's basically. And sometimes you have to just live with certain risks. When you're aware about it, there's nothing really much you can do. Then we need to sit with certain risks, and that's just how it is also.
Right. Thank you very much. Wow, I didn't realize. I just saw the time. We've been spending a good an hour with Logen already, but thank you for summarizing that. So what I'm hearing is, yes, we go out there to solve problems for customers. Keep looking out for what are the problems to solve. Keep solving them, and that is your value that you drive. Use that as a value to drive your actions, right? And measure those values. And while you're doing that, let the profits come in as you solve the problems, right? And ensure that you look at a profit not as a goal. Don't let it derail you, but look at how is that still solving problems, right? Learn from mistakes. And some of the what you can learn from is looking at the risk itself, right? And look at, okay, what can I retain now? What are my risk awareness? What can I reduce? What can I retain? What can I reduce in that sense, right? So that is a step by step that actions that you're sharing with us on how we can look at profits as a way of a way of control as opposed to being a goal, right? Thank you very much for sharing all those steps, Logen. I know before I hand you to Muller, just one thing. Just now, earlier on, you mentioned, right? Unicorn. Quick question to you: have you ever seen one before?
Uh, well, in the tech sense, yes. I mean,
No. I'm talking about the unicorn actually. Apart from Harry Potter movies. So sometimes when I hear this word unicorn being thrown all over the place, I say, "Hey, you can't be angry with them. I've never seen a unicorn
well,
before." So
being a nerd that I am, I found out that the unicorn probably originates from the Indus Valley civilization, where it was a certain type of a bull or something, where some of them had one horn.
right,
So yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I haven't seen it, or it might
Right.
have been a bull where they just had it one dimensional, and then it became
One-dimensional
a
bull.
unicorn, and
Okay,
then that
very
just carried
interesting.
on.
Very interesting. Okay. All right. No, thank you very much again, Logan. Muller, do you have any last questions for
No,
Logan?
wait, I won't risk my last question because it will be a long question. So I'm just going to say, I think Logan has helped us to do some justice to the topic today. I think he's given us a lot of clarity, why profitability needs to be controlled. Basically, best practices, leadership practices, setting foundation, living your purpose and your corporate values, right?
Yeah.
And which is essential in purposeful leadership. I think he has set that ground really well. We probably need to have another conversation about how to mitigate risk as leaders so that while we are focused on this, we don't get derailed. I think it's a whole conversation. Now, for those who have joined us, thank you very much. I saw a couple of people on LinkedIn and on Facebook. You've been quiet. If you have questions, you can still put it up. I'm sure Logan will answer it. But if you want to meet Logan in person, Logan, you are joining us next Thursday on the 10th at UNITA International University. So join us to meet Logan August 10th, next Thursday, for our leadership festival, leadership learning festival. To meet Logan first, and by the way, you can meet Ashok, who's flying in from Singapore to make it at it. Before we go, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with, Logan?
So, I mean, it's really this. Please don't. I mean, I know there may be reasons why we don't like maths and all of that. But remember that just as language is a gift to us from the universe, math is a gift to us from the universe. And we need to be grateful for it because I mean, language is one foundation of existence and another one is maths. If we don't have the pi theorem, all these theorems and all of these, if we don't have maths as a foundation, we won't have this computer to speak on. We won't have, good buildings, roads, and all of that. And I know, it is a difficult topic sometimes, maths, but everything is a gift from the universe, and so is maths. And when we receive it as such, like for me, pure maths is tough or scary, but I need to stop seeing it as such. Rather, I need to be curious and see what can I get out of it. And actually, this is something I'm very, very sorry. I'm taking a bit more time. I'm very passionate that young people need to get into the science, technology, and maths arena a lot more, because that the tech world, the mathematical world is evolving, and a lot of opportunities will come in that. And it's going to be like the basic thing. It's almost like you need to know how to do programming, just like you need to know how to write a proper sentence in English. It might become as basic as that, knowing this generative AI tools that we can really use. But we need to also think about what is a generative AI tool, where does it come from, and how much can I trust it? It's just a math model with some probabilities in it, and we trust it for creativity. We need to be we need to appreciate maths so that we can understand the world much better as well. Yeah.
So it sounds like maths is going to be our discerning tool for all the generative AI tools that's coming out with very intelligent stuff. And for us to make sense out of it, just get good at maths and love maths. And if you want to fall in love with maths, meet Logan next week at our Leadership Learning Festival. With that, Logan, thank you very much. As we say goodbye to Logan, and I'm going to say goodbye to him. Whoa, Ashok, we are at the
Yes.
end of the show, and I'm going to make sure my children watch this
So they
so
can
that
be math. Okay.
yeah, because they're in that space where they're thinking like, I'm not too sure whether I like maths. So I've
Right.
not heard anyone speak about math so passionately. Number one, and number two, he makes it sound exciting for me, lah. So he will be a very good ambassador for the youth.
That's true.
Tie into
That's
math
true.
programs, yeah. All right. So Ashok,
Okay.
before we actually finally say goodbye to people, because we've already taken 7 minutes of their lifetime, is there anything else you want to leave
No, no.
our wonderful audiences in Malaysia who will be welcoming?
Yes, yes. No, thank you all for logging in for this month of August, the topic on purposeful leadership. And I hope to meet many of you all next week in the Leadership Festival. I'm very excited about that.
Nice. So while you pack your bags and we welcome you to Malaysia. So for those who want to meet Ashok now, join us at the festival. Otherwise, send him a message if you can't make it so that you can catch up with him. He can be interesting. With that, this is Malar signing off from Malaysia and
And Ashok from Singapore. Right.
good
Thank
night.
you.